Dear friends, before we begin this story that will steal your hearts, I have a very special favor to ask. If this story moves you, please hit like, subscribe to our channel, and leave a comment. Your comments and likes fill us with joy and motivate us to keep bringing you these exciting stories. And if you want, write which country and city you're listening from. We love knowing we have friends all over the world. Now let's begin. The midday sun fell like molten lead over the Arizona desert. The cracked earth stretched as far as the eye could see, without a tree, without shade, without hope. Only the hot wind dragged swirls of reddish dust that danced among the lonely cacti. John Mitchell lay on his back on the burning sand, his shirt soaked in blood, the bullet wound in his right side pulsing with every weak beat of his heart. He had ridden for hours after the shootout until his horse collapsed dead from exhaustion. Then he had staggered, leaving a trail of dark blood on the thirsty ground. Now he could no longer move. His cracked lips tried to form a prayer he had forgotten years ago. The intense blue sky began to darken at the edges of his vision. So this is dying, he thought with a strange calm. 35 years of a hard life, of shootouts and escapes, of lonely nights under the stars, and it all ended here in the middle of nowhere with no one to remember him. Vultures were already drawing slow circles high above. John closed his eyes. The heat was unbearable, but now he felt cold. His hands trembled. He thought of his mother, whom he barely remembered. He thought of all the mistakes he had made. He thought that he would die alone as he had lived. Then he heard something, a soft, almost imperceptible sound, footsteps, slow, cautious. With great effort, John half opened his eyes. A figure stood out against the blinding sun. For a moment he thought it was death itself coming for him, but no, it was a woman. She knelt beside him, and her shadow gave him immediate relief from the brutal sun. John blinked, trying to focus on her face. She was an Apache woman, about 40 years old, with hair as black as night pulled into a long braid. Her bronze skin seemed immune to the relentless sun. She wore traditional leather clothing decorated with colored beads, but it was her eyes that captivated him. Deep, dark like ancient wells, and full of an emotion John couldn't decipher: sadness, surprise, recognition. The woman placed her hand on John's burning forehead, and he felt an unexpected coolness. She murmured something in Apache, words that sounded like an ancient chant. Then with quick, sure movements, she tore John's shirt and examined the wound. "Water," John whispered in a hoarse voice. The woman took a gourd hanging from her shoulder and brought the water to John's lips. He drank desperately, and the cool liquid was like pure life flowing down his parched throat. "Thank you," he managed to say. I thought I was going to die here." The woman didn't respond. Instead, she took several herbs and roots from a leather bag and began working on the wound with a skill that spoke of years of experience. Each movement was precise, efficient. First, she cleaned the wound with a liquid that burned like fire. John gritted his teeth to keep from screaming. Then she applied a paste made from crushed herbs that surprisingly began to soothe the pain almost immediately. While she worked, the woman kept observing John's face. Her eyes traced every line, every scar, as if she were reading a book she had been searching for a long time. John tried to stay conscious, but blood loss and pain were dragging him into darkness. In his delirium, he thought he heard the woman humming a melody, a strangely familiar melody, though he couldn't remember where he had heard it before. Finally, when the woman finished bandaging the wound with strips of clean cloth, she sat back on her heels and stared at John. He looked at her through a fog of pain and confusion. There was something about her, something in the way she looked at him, that stirred a disturbing feeling, like a forgotten memory, like a dream lost in the mists of time. The woman leaned toward him. Her face was inches from his. John could see every detail: the fine wrinkles around her eyes, the small scar on her left cheek, the hypnotic intensity of her gaze. And then she whispered, her words barely a breath of wind, but they fell on John like thunder. "I have been searching for you for 20 years. John's world stopped. His heart, which had been beating weakly, now hammered in his chest. What had she said? 20 years searching for him. He tried to speak, to ask questions, but his body no longer responded. The darkness that had been lurking at the edges of his consciousness finally enveloped him completely. The last thing he saw before fainting was those deep, dark eyes, full of a secret that had waited 2 decades to be revealed. And somewhere in his clouded mind, a door closed for 20 years began to open slowly. When John woke up, he was no longer under the relentless desert sun. He opened his eyes slowly, confused. Above him was a roof of intertwined branches and animal hides. Sunlight filtered through small openings, creating golden patterns on the walls of the Apache tent. He tried to sit up, but a sharp pain in his side stopped him cold. He groaned involuntarily. "Don't move." The voice was soft but firm. The Apache woman appeared beside him, gently pushing him back down. "The bullet passed through your body. You're lucky to be alive." John looked at her carefully now that he was more conscious. In the dim light of the tent, he could better appreciate her features. She was beautiful in a way he hadn't seen in any woman before. It wasn't the conventional beauty of saloon women or city ladies. It was something deeper, wilder. Her eyes shone with an ancient intelligence, and there was a dignity in her bearing that made him feel small. "Where am I?" he asked in a hoarse voice. "In my shelter. It's hidden in the desert hills. No one comes here." She dipped a cloth in a bowl of fresh water and placed it on John's forehead. "You've had a fever for 2 days. 2 days." John was surprised. He didn't remember anything after fainting in the desert. The woman nodded. She began to change his bandages with expert hands. John watched her work, fascinated by the precision of her movements. She applied more of that herbal paste that smelled of sage and other plants John couldn't identify. "What's your name?" John asked, trying to fill the silence. She paused, as if deciding whether to answer or not. Finally she said, "Anna. It means eternal flower in my language." "Anna," John repeated. The name felt both strange and familiar in his mouth. "I'm John Mitchell." "I know," she said simply, without looking him in the eyes. "How do you know?" "We know each other." Anna was silent for a long moment. Her hand stopped over the bandage. When she finally spoke, her voice trembled slightly. "You said your name while you were delirious with fever. You shouted many things, names, places, memories that seemed to torment you." John felt uncomfortable. He didn't like the idea of having revealed personal things in his delirium. "What did I say?" "You spoke of a river, of drowning, of not being able to breathe." Anna looked at him fixedly. "Do you remember something like that now?" John closed his eyes, trying to search his memory for the river. Yes, there was something there in the shadows of his mind, a feeling of panic, of water filling his lungs, of not being able to reach the surface, but it was all so confusing, so distant. "I don't know," he admitted. "I sometimes have nightmares about drowning, but I don't remember if it really happened or if it's just a dream." Anna returned to her work, finishing bandaging the wound. "The mind protects what the heart cannot bear to remember," she said softly. John studied her curiously. "You speak Spanish very well, better than many white people I know." "My grandmother was Mexican," Anna explained. "My grandfather captured her in a raid when she was young. Over time they fell in love. She taught me her language when I was a child. And where are they now? Dead, like everyone else." Her voice was flat, without emotion, but John could feel the ocean of pain hiding beneath. "The soldiers came many years ago. My people were scattered, killed, taken to reservations. I escaped." "I'm sorry," John said sincerely. Anna shrugged. "The past is the past. You can't change it. You can only remember." Those last words seemed laden with meaning, but John couldn't decipher what. He then remembered the words she had whispered in the desert. "You said something," John began cautiously. "When you found me, you said you had been searching for me for 20 years. What did you mean by that?" Anna stiffened. She stood abruptly and moved to the other side of the tent, turning her back. "You were delirious. You don't know what you heard." "No," John insisted, trying to sit up despite the pain. "I heard it clearly. You said you had been searching for me for 20 years. Why? Who are you to me?" Anna remained silent for so long that John thought she wouldn't answer. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. "Rest now. You're still very weak. We'll talk when you're stronger." "No." John raised his voice, then winced in pain from the effort. "Tell me now. I deserve to know." Anna slowly turned to look at him. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears. "You deserve to know after 20 years of nothing, after disappearing like a ghost in the fog." "I don't know what you're talking about." John was frustrated and confused. "I don't know you. I've never seen you before in my life." The words fell between them like stones in a pond, creating ripples of pain that spread to every corner of the tent. Anna closed her eyes. A single tear rolled down her cheek. "Then it's worse than I thought," she murmured. "You didn't just forget me, you forgot everything." "Forget what?" John was almost shouting now, ignoring the pain shooting through his side. "For God's sake, woman, speak clearly." Anna approached him slowly, knelt by his bed, and took his hand in hers. John felt a shiver run up his arm at her touch. There was something about the feel of her skin that was disturbingly familiar. 20 years ago," Anna began, her voice trembling, "a young cowboy almost drowned in the river near my tribe's territory. I was 20 years old then. I saw him fall from his horse. I saw him being swept away by the current. Everyone else fled, scared of the Apache warriors patrolling the area. But I dove into the water and saved him." John listened, hypnotized. Something in his chest was beginning to stir, like a sleeping animal stirring in its dreams. "I dragged him to the shore," Anna continued. "He was almost dead. He wasn't breathing, but I brought him back. I gave him my breath. I gave him my life." Her voice broke. "And when he opened his eyes, when he looked at me for the first time, I knew my destiny had changed forever." "No," John whispered, but he wasn't sure if he was denying her words or denying the tsunami of emotions beginning to flood his chest. "It was you, John," Anna said, squeezing his hand tighter. "It was you who almost drowned 20 years ago. It was you I saved. It was you I loved." John's world shattered into 1,000 pieces. In his mind, images began to flash like lightning. Murky water, difficulty breathing, a beautiful face above him, dark eyes full of concern, soft hands pressing on his chest. "It can't be," he gasped. "I don't remember." "I know," Anna said sadly. "I know you don't remember, but I never forgot. For 20 years I never forgot." The days passed slowly in Anna's hidden shelter. John recovered little by little, his body healing under the Apache woman's expert care, but his mind was a whirlwind of confusion and fragments of memories that wouldn't fully take shape. Every night after Anna changed his bandages and fed him the stew of dried meat and herbs she prepared, John asked her to tell him more. And every night, in a soft voice lit only by the fire crackling in the center of the tent, Anna narrated the story of a love he had forgotten. It was the spring of 1855, she began one night, her eyes lost in the flames. The river was swollen from the mountain snowmelt. Your group of cowboys was trying to cross it with the cattle, but the waters were treacherous, more than they had calculated. John listened in silence, trying to force his memory to cooperate, but it was like trying to catch smoke with his hands. I saw you fall, Anna continued. Your horse got scared, reared up, and you fell into the water. The current dragged you downstream like a rag doll. The other cowboys tried to help you, but my tribe's warriors appeared at that moment. There were shouts, gunshots. Your companions had to flee, leaving you behind. And you saved me, John asked softly. Anna nodded. I was collecting medicinal plants near the river. I saw everything. I knew that if I didn't do something, you would die, so I threw myself into the water. She stood and walked to the tent's entrance, looking out at the starry night. It wasn't easy. The current was dragging me too, but I finally managed to grab you and take you to shore, away from where the warriors were. Weren't you scared? Didn't you think it might be dangerous to save a white man? Anna laughed softly, a sad sound. At that moment, I didn't think, I just acted. When I pulled you out of the water, I didn't see a white man. I saw a soul that needed help. She turned to look at him. You were unconscious. You weren't breathing. I gave you mouth to mouth like my grandmother had taught me. I pressed your chest over and over, and finally, you spat out water and started coughing. John could almost feel it now. The water coming out of his lungs, the pain in his chest, the desperation for air, and then those eyes, those beautiful dark eyes looking at him with relief and joy. When you opened your eyes and looked at me, Anna whispered, something happened between us, something I can't explain with words. It was as if our souls recognized each other. And what happened next? John asked, completely absorbed in the story. I hid you, Anna said, returning to sit by the fire. There was a small cave upstream where I sometimes hid when I needed to be alone. I took you there. You were very weak, with a fever from swallowing river water. I cared for you for 3 days and 3 nights. Her eyes shone with the memory. At first, you were afraid of me. Thought I would hurt you or turn you over to the warriors, but little by little you began to trust. We talked, or tried to talk. You didn't know Apache, and I knew very little Spanish then, but we communicated with gestures, with looks, with smiles. John felt a lump in his throat, though he couldn't remember clearly. Something in his heart resonated with every word she said. The 4th day, Anna continued, her voice dropping to an intimate whisper. You were strong enough to sit up. You asked my name. I told you, then you asked if you could stay one more day. Just one more, you said, to regain my strength. A sad smile crossed her face. That one more day turned into 7 days, 7 days that changed my life forever. She stood again, restless with the intensity of her own memories. During those days, we got to know each other, really know each other. You told me about your life, about how your parents had died when you were a child, about how you had grown up working on ranches, moving from one place to another. You told me you had never had a real home, that you had always been alone. And I told you about my people, she continued, about how we lived in harmony with the land, about our traditions, our beliefs. I told you about my grandmother, about the stories she told me about true love, about how the Great Spirit unites souls that are meant to be together. John swallowed hard, and we fell in love. Anna turned to look at him, and in her eyes John saw the answer before she spoke. Yes, she whispered. We fell in love, deeply, irrevocably, dangerously. She sat back down, now closer to him. On the 7th day you kissed me. It was at sunset, when the sun painted the sky orange and purple. We were sitting at the entrance of the cave, watching how the light changed over the desert, and suddenly, without saying anything, you took my hand, turned me toward you, and kissed me. Tears flowed freely down her cheeks. It was the sweetest, purest kiss I had ever experienced. In that moment, I knew I would love you until the day I died and beyond. John felt his own heart racing. There was a part of him deep inside that recognized this story, that felt it as truth, even though his conscious mind couldn't remember it. That night, she said, her voice now barely audible, we gave ourselves to each other under the stars. With the earth as our witness, we made love, and I knew with every fiber of my being that you were my destiny. She paused, breathing deeply as if gathering courage to continue. At dawn on the 8th day, you asked me to marry you. Not the white man's way, you said, but my people's way. You wanted to make a sacred vow, a bond that not even death could break. And what did you say? John asked, his voice rough with emotion. I said yes, Anna replied with a pain-filled smile. I said yes without hesitation, and that night under the full moon we made our vows. She reached to her neck and pulled out a small necklace that had been hidden under her clothes. It was a leather cord with a polished turquoise stone. You gave me this, she said, showing it to him. It was your mother's, you said, the only thing you had of her. You gave it to me as a symbol of your promise. John looked at the necklace, and something stirred in his memory. A blue stone shining under the moonlight, hands intertwined, words whispered in the night. I gave you this, Anna said, moving closer and unbuttoning his shirt just enough to reveal his chest. Around his neck, John saw another necklace, almost identical, but with a red stone instead of blue. It's a bloodstone. It represents the eternal bond. I told you that as long as I wore your mother's blue stone and you wore my red stone, our hearts would be united no matter the distance. John raised a trembling hand to his own neck. There was nothing there. I don't have it, he whispered. I don't know where it is. I know, Anna said sadly. You lost it just like you lost your memory of me. She pulled away, wrapping her arms around herself. We made our vows that night. We promised to love each other forever, to be together no matter the obstacles. You said you would find a way, that you would return to your world, settle your affairs, and then come back for me. We planned to run away together, to find a place where we could live in peace, where no one would judge us for the color of our skin or our different worlds. But I didn't come back, John said, finally understanding the magnitude of what he had done, or rather, what he hadn't done. No, Anna confirmed. You didn't come back. You left at dawn on the 9th day. You kissed me. You promised you would return in one moon. Wait for me, you said. I promise I'll come back for you. And I watched you leave, mounted on a horse you had stolen from a nearby ranch. Her voice broke. I waited for a full moon. I waited in that cave day and night. But you didn't come back. I waited another moon and another and another. 6 moons passed, and I kept waiting, clinging to your promise, to your love. And then, John asked, though he almost feared hearing the answer. Then I stopped waiting in one place, Anna said. I began to search for you. I traveled from town to town, from ranch to ranch, asking about you. I described your face, your smile, your blue eyes, but no one had seen you, or if they had, they wouldn't admit it. She wiped her tears with the back of her hand. The years passed. My tribe was attacked, scattered. I lost my family, my home. But I never stopped searching for you because I had made a promise too. Why? Because a part of me always believed that something terrible must have happened to you, that you hadn't abandoned me intentionally, that somewhere, somehow, you were still alive and maybe searching for me too. 20 years, John murmured, overwhelmed by the enormity of it all. You searched for me for 20 years, Anna repeated. And when I saw you in that desert, dying under the sun, the moment I saw your face, I knew it was you. You had aged, you had changed, but your eyes were still the same eyes I fell in love with 2 decades ago. She approached him again, taking his face in her hands. So yes, John Mitchell, I have been searching for you for 20 years. I have waited 20 years, and now that I have finally found you, how can I let you go again? John felt hot tears rolling down his own cheeks. He couldn't clearly remember what she described, but every cell in his body seemed to scream that it was true. His heart recognized what his mind had forgotten. I don't know what happened, he said in a broken voice. I don't know why I didn't come back. I don't know why I don't remember. But Anna, my God, Anna, I'm so sorry. She pressed her forehead against his, her tears mingling with John's. You can't ask forgiveness for something you don't remember doing, she whispered. But you can choose now. You can choose to remember. You can choose to believe. You can choose to come back to me. John closed his eyes, and in the darkness behind his lids he saw flashes. A cave by a river, the reflection of the moon on the water, a young, beautiful face smiling at him, the touch of soft skin against his, the taste of a stolen kiss, the sound of promises whispered in the night. And he knew with absolute certainty that every word Anna had said was true. He opened his eyes and looked at her, really looked at her for the first time since waking up in her shelter, and in that moment something changed. The woman before him was no longer a stranger. She was his Anna, the woman who had saved him, who had loved him, who had waited 20 years for him. Help me remember, he whispered. Please help me remember everything. Anna smiled through her tears. I will, she promised. I will help you remember, and this time I won't let you go. The days turned into weeks. John regained his strength quickly under Anna's care, and with each passing day he also regained something else, fragments of memories that had been buried deep in his mind. One afternoon, while Anna prepared food over the fire, John stood up completely for the first time since his arrival. The pain in his side had diminished to a dull ache. He walked slowly to the tent's entrance and looked outside. Anna's shelter was hidden in a small canyon, invisible from below. Red rocks rose on both sides, providing protection and shade. A small stream flowed nearby, its clear water sparkling in the afternoon sun. It's beautiful here, John said. Anna came to him, placing a soft hand on his back. This place has been my home for 15 years. After my tribe was scattered, I wandered for a long time. Then I found this place. It's close to where we met. John turned to look at her. By the river, she nodded, about 2 hours north on horseback. Sometimes I go there to the cave where we hid, where we loved each other, where we made our vows. Her voice softened. It's my sacred place where I keep our memory alive. John felt a pang of guilt and sadness. Anna, I need to understand what happened. Why don't I remember? Why didn't I come back for you? That's the question I've asked myself for 20 years, she replied. And I think only you can answer it, but to do that you need to remember. John was frustrated with himself. I've been trying to remember. I see flashes, fragments, but nothing complete. It's like trying to catch water with my hands. Anna took his hand and guided him back inside. Sit down, she said softly. There's something I need to show you. She went to a corner of the tent and took out a small carved wooden chest. She opened it carefully, almost reverently. Inside, John could see several objects, feathers, stones, pieces of cloth. Anna took out something wrapped in soft leather. She unwrapped it slowly, revealing a knife, but it wasn't just any knife. It had a handle carved with intricate designs, and on the blade 2 words were engraved in Spanish, Para siempre, forever. Do you recognize this? Anna asked, offering it to him. John took the knife with trembling hands. The moment his fingers touched the handle, it was as if a door opened in his mind. A memory, vivid and clear as day, flooded his consciousness. He was in a cave, the setting sun painting the walls orange and gold. In front of him, a young Anna smiled as he carved the knife's handle. "What are you doing?" she asked, coming closer to look. "A gift," the young John replied. "For you, so you'll remember me when I'm not here." "I don't need a knife to remember you," Anna said, laughing. "Your face is engraved on my heart." "Still," John insisted, continuing his work, "I want you to have something of mine." He pointed to the words he had begun to engrave on the blade. "Forever, because that's what we'll be, forever together." Anna took the finished knife and held it against her chest. "Forever," she repeated, her eyes shining with tears of happiness. John blinked, returning to the present. Tears rolled down his face. "I remember," he whispered. "My God, I remember. I made it for you. I carved it over 2 days using a flint. I wanted it to be perfect." Anna was also crying. "It has been. It has been perfect. I've carried it with me all these years. It's my most precious possession." John looked at the knife, then at Anna. "What else? What else is in that chest?" Anna took out another object, a piece of blue cloth faded by time. "Your shirt," she said. "The one you were wearing the day you left. It was torn, stained with river blood, but you gave it to me. You said, 'Keep it until I return, then I'll give you a new one of fine silk from the city.'" John took the cloth and another memory struck him. It was dawn. The air was cool, almost cold. John was getting ready to leave, knowing that every minute he stayed put both Anna and himself at risk. The Apache warriors had increased their patrols after the river incident. Anna was crying, clinging to him. "I don't want you to go," she sobbed. "I'm afraid something bad will happen." "Nothing bad will happen," John assured her, drying her tears with his thumbs. "I'll come back for you, I promise." "Moon, I'll be back." "How do you know?" Anna was terrified. "What if the soldiers catch you? What if my people find you?" "Shh." John silenced her with a kiss. Then he took off the blue shirt he was wearing and gave it to her. "Take this. When you feel afraid, when you doubt, hold it and remember that I will return. I swear it on my life." Anna took the shirt and pressed it against her face, inhaling his scent. "I'll be waiting for you," she whispered. "No matter how long it takes, I'll wait for you." John let out a sob. "I promised I would return in one moon, one single moon, and I never came back. Anna, what kind of man am I?" "A man that something terrible happened to," Anna said firmly. "John, listen to me. For years I wondered if you had simply changed your mind, if you had decided that the risk wasn't worth it, that an Apache woman didn't deserve your love. But the more I searched for you, the more convinced I became that something else had happened." She sat in front of him, taking his hands. "I found traces of you over the years. A cowboy in Texas who remembered a man matching your description, who had been found wandering in the desert with no memory of who he was or where he came from. A doctor in New Mexico who had treated a man with your name who suffered from terrible headaches and gaps in his memory. A sheriff in Colorado who mentioned a John Mitchell who couldn't remember anything before a certain date." John stared at her in amazement. "I lost my memory. That's what I believe," Anna said. "Something happened to you after you left me, something that erased your memories, not just of me but of everything that came before." John put his hands to his head. Now that Anna mentioned it, there were gaps in his memory. He couldn't clearly remember anything from before, when, 20 years ago. He remembered fragments, work on a ranch, shootouts, travels from one place to another, but the details were blurry, as if he were seeing them through a fogged window. "What do you think happened?" he asked. Anna took the last object from the chest, a yellowed, fragile newspaper clipping. "I found this many years ago," she said, handing it to him. "It's from a Santa Fe newspaper, dated 2 weeks after you left me." John read the article with trembling hands. Group of cowboys was attacked by bandits on the road to Santa Fe. 3 men died in the shootout, 2 others were seriously injured. One of the survivors, identified only as John, was found 2 days after the attack, wandering in the desert with a severe head wound. The man does not remember his full name or where he comes from. He has been placed in the care of Dr. Samuel Morrison. John dropped the newspaper. "I was hit on the head," he murmured. "I lost my memory from a blow to the head." "That's what I believe," Anna confirmed. "And by the time you recovered enough to function again, you no longer remembered anything from before the attack. You didn't remember me, you didn't remember our promise, you didn't remember our love." But John was confused. "If that's true, why didn't I regain my memory over time? It's been 20 years. "Some memories are lost forever," Anna said sadly, "or buried so deep that it takes a trigger to bring them back. Maybe that's why you've been having those dreams about drowning. Maybe part of you has always been trying to remember." John looked at her, seeing 20 years of pain reflected in her eyes. "Anna, I don't know what to say. I don't know how to make up for all these lost years." "You don't owe me anything," she said softly. "What happened wasn't your fault. You didn't choose to forget. You didn't choose to break your promise." "But I broke it," John insisted. "Intentionally or not, I left you waiting. I left you alone. I made you believe that I didn't love you enough to come back." Anna moved closer to him. "And now that you know the truth, now that you're beginning to remember, what do you feel?" John closed his eyes, searching his heart. When he opened them again, there was certainty in his gaze. "I feel like I've woken from a long nightmare. I feel like I've been living only half alive all these years, as if an essential part of me was missing. And now that I've found you, now that I'm beginning to remember, I feel like I can finally breathe again." He took Anna's face in his hands, his thumbs gently caressing her tear-wet cheeks. I don't remember everything, but I remember the most important thing. I love you. I loved you then, and I love you now. And if you'll let me, I'll spend the rest of my life making up for these 20 lost years. Anna let out a sob of joy and pain mixed together. John. But before she could say more, the sound of approaching horses interrupted them, both tense, looking toward the tent's entrance. Are you expecting someone? John asked in a low voice. Anna shook her head, her face paling. No one knows I'm here. No one ever comes to this place. John stood quickly, ignoring the pain in his side. Where's my revolver? Destroyed, Anna said. I found it on your belt when I brought you here. It was damaged by water and sand. She took the knife from the chest and handed it to him. Here, this is all we have. The sounds grew closer, gruff, rough male voices, and then a voice that John recognized immediately, a voice that made his blood run cold. I know you're here, Mitchell. I saw your blood trail days ago. I followed you to this damn canyon. You can't hide from me. John felt his entire body tense. Jake Morrison, he whispered. Who is that? Anna asked, seeing the terror in John's eyes. The man who shot me, John replied. The man who's been hunting me for months, and if he finds me, if he finds us both, he'll kill us. Anna didn't hesitate. She took John's hand and pulled him to the back of the tent, where a small opening in the rock provided a secret exit. I know these canyons better than anyone, she said with determination. We can escape, but we have to go now. Anna, you're risking your life for me. She looked at him fiercely. I lost you once for 20 years. I won't lose you again. Not even death will separate us now. And as the men's voices drew closer, as danger closed in on them like a trap, John knew with absolute certainty that Anna meant every word. She had waited 20 years for him, and now that she had finally found him, she would fight to her last breath to keep him by her side. Together they disappeared into the shadows of the secret cave, leaving behind the shelter that had been Anna's home for 15 years, leaving behind safety for an uncertain future, but also leaving behind 20 years of separation, 20 years of pain, 20 years of waiting. Now they were finally together, and no one, not bandits, not lost memories, not different worlds, would ever separate them again. The secret cavern led them through a labyrinth of narrow tunnels that only Anna knew. John followed her in almost total darkness, trusting her completely as her hand guided his. The pain in his side protested with every movement, but fear and adrenaline gave him the strength to continue. Behind them they could hear muffled voices. The men had found Anna's shelter and were tearing it apart, searching for them. Mitchell, I know you're here, you coward. Come out and face your fate like a man. Jake Morrison's voice echoed through the canyon, full of rage and thirst for vengeance. Why is he chasing you? Anna whispered as they moved through the tunnels. John breathed heavily. 6 months ago, I was working on a ranch near Tucson. Morrison was the foreman. I discovered he was stealing cattle from the owner and selling them on his own. When I confronted him, he tried to kill me. There was a fight. His younger brother attacked me from behind, and I had to defend myself. The boy died. He paused. The pain of that memory was as vivid as the wound in his side. I didn't want to kill him. He was just a kid, but it was him or me. Morrison swore revenge. He's been hunting me ever since. The shootout where I was wounded was him and his gang. Anna squeezed his hand tighter. It wasn't your fault. You defended yourself. Tell that to Morrison, John replied bitterly. To him, I killed his brother in cold blood. He won't rest until he sees me dead. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they saw light at the end of the tunnel. They emerged into a small hidden valley, surrounded by rock walls so high they were practically invisible from above or below. We're on the other side of the canyon now, Anna explained, but we don't